So in this video, we're going to talk about how to formulate systems of inequalities from word problems. So in this video, we're just going to be doing the first two parts of this problem solving process because all we're doing today is actually just putting together the system of inequalities. We're not going to be actually solving them until a later video. So we need to start off by really understanding the problem and figuring out what it is that we're trying to solve. It can be very helpful to underline, circle, or highlight important information. Then we're going to make a plan. So we're going to think about how it is we're going to eventually solve the problem and set up the inequalities that we need to do so. So these words and phrases are going to be very important to us because when you see these used in a word problem, it really gives you an idea of which inequality sign you're going to be using. So make sure that you underline, circle, or highlight whenever you see these. Also, we have these words and phrases that represent math symbols. So if we have additional math operations in our problem, these words and phrases will tell us what's going on. So here's what we're going to do. So we're going to read the problem carefully and then look for important words and phrases that suggest inequality signs or math operations. Then we're going to actually write inequalities to represent the problem situation. Okay, so let's try an example. So here it says the sum of two numbers is no more than 10. The first number increased by twice the second number is more than 5. The difference of the first number and second number is at least 3. Let x represent the first number and y represent the second. Formulate a system of inequalities to represent the numbers. Okay, so let's think about what's going on in these sentences. So to start off, we already have our variables defined for us, right? So we know that x is the first number, and we know that y is the second number. So we already have those two variables for us. So now let's go ahead and think about each sentence and how that can be translated into an inequality. So my first sentence says the sum of two numbers is no more than 10. Okay, so as you read that sentence, you may notice that we have a lot of math phrases in that sentence, right? So if we look at this, okay, it says sum. Sum, remember, means plus, okay? And then we have our two numbers. Well, in this case, we know that that's x and y, right? So the sum of two numbers is going to be x plus y. And then we have this important phrase that is no more than, which we know is an inequality sign, okay? Is no more than is represented by the less than or equal to sign. And then we just have 10. So this first sentence will translate into the inequality, x plus y is less than or equal to 10. Okay, so now let's read this next sentence. It says the first number, okay, and we know that first number is x, right? Increased by twice the second number is more than 5, okay? So now let's go ahead and translate this sentence. So we have the first number, which we know is x, and then increased by. So if you look back at that chart, increased by is another phrase that means plus. And then twice, well, we know that twice is on our multiplication section of that chart, okay? Twice means 2 times, and then we know the second number is y, okay? So 2 times y, and then we have is more than, okay? So that is more than is on our chart of inequalities. So that is going to be greater than, and then we have 5. Okay, so from that second sentence, we get our second inequality, which is x plus 2y is greater than 5. Okay, and now we have another sentence. So we have the difference of the first number and second number is at least 3. Okay, so difference is another important word. Difference, remember, means subtract. And then so we're looking at the difference of the first and the second. Okay, so we know that means x minus y. And then we have this important phrase, is at least. Okay, so at least is one of those phrases, and it can be a little bit confusing because people look at the least and they think it's less than, but at least is greater than or equal to, okay? And the way I like to think about it is in terms of money. Because like if you have at least $10, okay, that means you can have $10 or you can have more than that, right? So that's why at least is greater than or equal to. So just how I remember that. Okay, and then we have 3. Okay, so now finally we have our third inequality, which is x minus y is greater than or equal to 3. Okay, and that's all we need to do in this problem. So like I said today, all we're doing is writing out the system of inequalities. So we're just taking the information in the original problem and translating it into a system of inequalities. Okay, so now let's try this problem. So a little bit longer problem. Barbara's Bakery is starting to gather supplies to bake pecan pies for their annual Thanksgiving sale. They're preparing to order pecans in bulk from a farm in North Texas and a distributor in San Saba. They need to consider the following conditions when planning their pecan order to limit the amount of waste. They must process at least 35 pounds of pecans to meet their customers' demands. They have limited storage that can hold a maximum of 70 pounds of pecans. Pecans from North Texas cost $27.50 per pound, and pecans from San Saba cost $10.25 per pound. The bakery can spend no more than $1,200. If the weight of pecans ordered from North Texas is X and the weight of pecans ordered from San Saba is Y, formulate a system of inequalities to describe the possible combinations of pecans they can plan. Okay, so a lot going on in this problem, but I kind of, focused in on the math part and highlighted those phrases that we need. So the first phrase I'm looking at is this: at least 35 pounds of pecans, okay? Well, they're going to order from 2 places, right? That's how we got our 2 variables. So remember, they told us that X is how many they're going to order from North Texas, and Y is how many they're ordering from San Saba. So we have our 2 variables. So if we put it all together, right? So if we have X plus Y, we know that has to be at least. So at least is one of those important phrases that tells us we need to use a greater than or equal to sign. Right? Because if you have at least 35, that means you have more than 35 or you have exactly 35. Okay, so now if we look at this next sentence, it tells us that it can hold a maximum of 70 pounds of pecans. Well, we know that they're going to be ordering pecans from both distributor, right? So they're going to be storing them all together. So that's going to be storing X plus Y pecans, and that has to be a maximum of 70 pounds. Okay, so if the maximum is 70, there's one of those important words. That means we have less than or equal to 70. Okay, so we have our second inequality now. And actually, let's write our inequalities over here. We have X plus Y is greater than or equal to 35. And then we have X plus Y is less than or equal to 70. And now the next sentence, it says, okay, pecans from North Texas cost $27.50 per pound, and pecans from San Saba cost $10.25 per pound, and they can spend no more than $1,200. Okay, so we know that the cost times the weight of the pecans is going to be like how much they end up spending on an order, right? So if we want to know how much the cost of pecans from North Texas is, we know that's going to be $27.50 times X, right? Because you do the weight times the cost per pound to figure out the total cost. Okay, and then from San Saba, we have $10.25 a pound times Y number of pounds. And so the total of $27.50X plus $10.25Y is going to be the total cost, okay? And then we have this important phrase right here, right? It says no more than. So no more than is going to be less than or equal to, right? Because they can spend $1,200 if they want to, or they can spend less than $1,200, right? It's kind of like our bakeries on a budget. So that's going to be the third inequality that we have, okay? So $27.50 X plus $10.25Y is less than or equal to $1,200. Okay, so now we have our system of inequalities that represents the problem in this situation. Okay, so now you can go ahead and pause the video and try doing this example on your own. Okay, so in this problem, Ronald is being nice and buying snacks for his friends. So we have some conditions that are going on with his snack buying, right? So if we look at this, we can see here it says that he has to buy at least 20 bags of snacks for his friends, okay? So we know that he's going to be buying some amount of chips, which is X, and some amount of pretzels, which is Y. So altogether, that's going to be X plus Y, and we know that at least means greater than or equal to. Okay, so X plus Y is going to be greater than or equal to 20. Okay, so then it talks about the cost, right? So each bag of chips costs $3.25, and each bag of pretzels costs $4.50. But he's on a budget and he can spend no more than $100 on snacks, okay? So we know that we can express the cost of chips by 325x and the cost of pretzels by 450y. Okay, and we're going to add those two together because that's going to be our total cost. And we know that no more than is going to be less than or equal to, so that's going to be less than or equal to 100. So then we have our third inequality. It says that he can not put a lot of stuff in his car, so he can buy no more than 50 bags altogether. So altogether is an important word. It means plus. So that means if we put x plus y together, that's going to be no more than, which is less than or equal to 50. Okay, so here that's how we get our three inequalities for our system of inequalities. So remember that you can write a system of inequalities to represent a real life situation. You just have to read the problem carefully and look for key words and phrases that tell you which inequality sign and math operation to use.